Everyone wants to do the best they can. Everyone wants to help their customers. Anyone who's in the services industry wants to do a good job. But what does the law say? If you don't address these issues, you're liable for serious lawsuits, or you can hurt people. People can be doxxed, or they can have their identity stolen. All sorts of bad stuff can happen. So what are the controls that need to be in place to avoid that from happening?
Welcome to the Incident Report presented by Quest Technology Management. I'm Paul Burke, Director of Technology Communications. Every week, I'm joined by VP of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke. The Incident Report brings you skills, tactics, and channel news to help you stay productive and agile in a changing technology landscape. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Incident Report. This is episode 83. My name is Paul Burke. I don't do this podcast alone. Across from me is Adam. Adam, how are you doing?
Good, Paul. Happy to be here. Excited for the topic today. I think the channel is struggling with this a little bit, and I think some of our partners and some of our customers are always curious about what's going on. So excited about today, and ready to go.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking, wow, they're so polished, it feels almost as if they've already done this episode and this is a re-recording of it. But that couldn't be. That couldn't possibly be. These are professionals. They would hit record and not mess up the first time.
Yeah, they wouldn't record an entire 35-minute podcast and not record it at all. That definitely would not happen, especially with, what's your title, Paul? Digital marketing. What's your title?
Yeah, digital marketing director. It's a very professional title, Adam.
Yes.
You think a man with that sort of professional title would know how to hit record successfully.
Yes. So if it does sound polished, definitely not a re-recording of an episode we already did a week ago.
Mm-hmm. So here we are.
Fourth wall, breaking the fourth wall, Paul.
Yeah, letting them in behind the scenes. Oh, real quick, before we get into the topic, letting them more behind the scenes. Adam, when this episode releases, this is your running week. This is the week that you're running 100 miles on the weekend. How are you feeling?
I'm excited. Yeah. So we'll be knocking out my first 100, assuming everything goes right, but lots of things can go wrong over a 100-mile race. But yeah, on the 26th of October, I'll be running around 20-mile loops in the desert outside of Scottsdale, Phoenix, the Javelina 100. So yeah, excited about it. Gonna go for it.
I'll be out there standing. Glad that I'm not running it. So we're both serving purposes.
Super excited. Yeah. It can be fun.
Today, what we wanted to dive into was just the IT challenges. What are the largest challenges in the IT industry right now? And there are a lot, like you mentioned, Adam. There's a lot. And we also want to talk about, because we know if you're listening, you're very likely a partner. You're in the partner program, maybe ours, maybe others, but you're interested in being a better partner. And what we want to do on this, and we say it every week, that we want to help you become a better partner, talking about the IT challenges right now and how you can approach clients or possible clients is what we want to talk about. So Adam, when you look at the landscape, what are you seeing as the big challenges?
At the end of the day, we're all operating different businesses and organizations. And one of the largest areas of disruption right now, the marketing speak out there, a lot of people are dumping a ton of money into artificial intelligence. So that's definitely an area of interest for a lot of folks. But cybersecurity requirements and incidents continue to be a challenge at the marketplace, from actually affecting business operations. So you can talk about cybersecurity in a couple different methods, in a couple different areas, but the cybersecurity requirements that are getting laid onto organizations from an auditing standpoint and from a compliance standpoint are not trivial in their nature, and they're getting more and more burdensome on every size organization, from the SMB to the middle market to enterprise level folks. Cybersecurity requirements, regulations, policies, frameworks, security architecture, all that stuff is a big challenge that bad actors are creating, but also tied back into artificial intelligence. All those cybersecurity requirements have to do with how you're managing your data, how you're authenticating users, how you're limiting access through policy. And artificial intelligence is just going to do what it's programmed to do, right? I mean, so those are I think the two largest challenges for folks right now. You got the bleeding edge artificial intelligence requirements that are consuming a ton of power and consuming a ton of compute. and a lot of investment dollars right now. And then you have the cybersecurity requirements and the emerging compliance requirements that are, at the tactical operational level are a big, big challenge.
And so you have organizations like the SEC, they just adopted a new cybersecurity requirement for public companies, mandating disclosure of material cybersecurity incidents within 4 business days, which from what I've read is complicating the issue because some organizations are trying to deal with the cybersecurity ransomware incidents privately, but this is saying, hey, you have to declare this, which is affecting stock prices, which is affecting user engagement. What do you think about that stuff?
Great question, Paul. And those filings, those requirements do affect stock prices, and we had one that really affected like in the past 6 months, everyone still knows about the American public usually has about a 6-month memory, right? So the CrowdStrike incident happened back right on July 17th. And if you look back at their stock price, they've almost recovered. They were at about 370 on July 17th, and they're at about 310 now. They lost a significant amount of their market cap. They went from about $350, $345 all the way down to $222 per share price. They've recovered a significant amount of that. They're almost about 50% retracement of that. And we're right about the 3.5-month mark. So give it 6 months, they'll be back, in their normal area. But from an SEC filing standpoint, when these breaches happen, like you're exactly right. Most people want to handle this privately. But what's happening in legal action, what's happening is in breach information being out there on the web, there are lawyers, like everything that gets complicated. A lot of people want to deal with these exploits and these bad situations privately. But what happens is the lawyers get involved and they start combing the dark web and basically exploited assets for personally identifiable information, healthcare information, proprietary information, anything that's in conflict with an existing statute or law, that then they can create a class action lawsuit, sue the companies that were responsible for securing that data. So we're going to talk a little bit more about compliance here in a minute, but that information has value because there are legal ramifications and teeth in the compliance rules around, hey, if you lose XYZ asset, like my data or your data, you lose that credit information, your date of birth, your social security number, your address, your phone number, whatever that personally identifiable information is that another company is responsible for storing and or deleting on demand, right? So like you look like GDPR or California's version of the GDPR statutes that my data is mine. Lawyers are out there basically hunting for class action lawsuits to take a swipe at people who have deep pockets. So like anything, those, compliance is good, laws are good. It's helping organizations maintain security and awareness and compliance. But at the same time, then you also have some lawyers out there who are, searching around for easy wins. It's a big impact on people trying to run businesses.
So we'll talk more about this article on CNBC as well about ransom and demands. And this, I think, ties in exactly to what you're talking about. Lehigh Valley Health Network in 2023, they're a Pennsylvania-based hospital. They refused to pay a $5 million ransom. And they refused to pay it. The data was leaked, 134,000 patients on the dark web, including nude photos of about 600 breast cancer patients. Well, they were hit with a class action lawsuit. And instead of paying that $5 million ransom, they got hit with a $65 million settlement. It's a really challenging situation to be in as an organization.
Well, absolutely. So like those are the scenarios, and that's where data loss prevention and validating, one, you got to validate if you've been compromised. Then you got to understand what the bad actors are doing. Then they're going to hold you for ransom, either it's extortion. They're going to extort funds from you so they don't release the data that they've retrieved, or they're bluffing, or they, if they've encrypted your environment, you got to understand like, hey, can we rebuild from backups were they able to extract any data? So there are a lot of controls that need to get put in place, which I think is kind of going into, the other kind of things we wanted to talk about. And okay, like, so what do partners actually do about this? Like
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence is rapidly expanding. Bad actors are using it to, target as many organizations as possible, as quickly as possible, looking for vulnerabilities. So we know that they're using the tech modifications that are available to them just as the good guys are. So what do we do, so what do we do about it as partners, as MSPs, as
Mm-hmm.
technology advisors, right?
Can I ask you a question, Adam?
Please.
Great. I'm reading some notes here, and a phrase came up, and I wasn't sure, but they say it's one of the important aspects of what's happening with just one of the challenges happening right now is cross-border data transfers. I don't know. I don't understand a cross-border data transfer, but also it says that companies are facing challenges in managing global data flow. So, are companies responsible for the data that's going between countries?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Uh,
like if you're a US based company and you're doing business in Dublin, Ireland, or in Paris, France, or in Frankfurt, Germany,
mhm,
there are different, the European Union has different requirements as far as their end user data. Asia Pacific organizations have countries in Australia and the Philippines, and they all have different compliance requirements. And a lot of organizations, so it's called GRC, so governance, risk, and compliance efforts, as
mhm,
far as like managing, hey, we have all this information on our users. How are we securing that? How are we protecting that? And are we playing within the right rules of the game, depending on what country we're in? There's a great case like Twitter, right? So everyone kind of got all fired up when, X, so Musk goes in, fires 80% of the workforce, which is hilarious, and continues to operate the environment, very, very well.
mhm,
Great scene of him walking in with the kitchen sink. That was hilarious. So, so he's running X, but he had a situation in Brazil where they were told by one government, part of the organization, one government that was in charge at the time, to
mhm,
do something that their lawyers looked at and saw and said, well, hey, if we do that, we're violating the regulations that are in place within this government, right? So they were in a really tough situation. They're being told by, some people think the person's a dictator, some people think the person's, duly elected, but there's laws on the books in the country, and the government that's currently in power is telling them as a platform provider, hey, you need to make XYZ changes, or you need to limit this type of speech, and they're trying to operate within that framework. Yeah, but companies have to do that across every jurisdiction. So the Microsofts of the world, they have to operate within the legal ramifications of the providers in the countries they are.
mhm,
Service providers are the same. We just got done with a project deploying firewalls in about 30 countries around the globe.
mhm,
And we had to deal with different telecommunication providers, different labor laws as far as having people on site or dispatched or under contract, and you have to respect the rules of the country you're in. And it's no different in the digital world, right? Like, in certain, like the United States, we have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and freedom of speech. A lot of other countries don't necessarily have freedom of speech. Actually, very
mhm,
few actually have freedom of speech. So you can say pretty much whatever you want in the United States.
mhm.
You can't do that in other countries. The same thing happens with your data. Just as much as you as an individual person, it happens within companies trying to manage that in other jurisdictions. It's a mess.
Yeah, that sounds like an overwhelming amount of things to keep track of. So, is that what compliance as a service is?
That's one facet of it. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
compliance as a service. So that's one way. So, and great segue there, Paul. That was seamless. I mean, I'm going to call that out. That was nice.
I can't take all the credit. My brain not knowing things has to take most of the credit. Me being confused on a lot of this has to take a lot of the credit. So
Uh, That was fantastic. No, it was
I
great. So
hand
yeah,
I hand the Oscar off to the part of my brain who was just confused.
well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Well, so yeah, compliance as a service is what organizations like ours and others in the market help channel partners and help, trusted advisors and people out there. Okay, you have a customer who's operating in 30 different countries.
Mhm.
What are they delivering in those countries as a service? And then what are the compliance requirements? Start with the United States, right? Just start with the US, right? What are the frameworks that need to be adhered to? And what are the new SEC regulation, right?
Mhm.
Notify within 4 days of a security incident, right? So first question to the customer is, hey, how are you doing that today? How are you managing that? How's your crisis communication plan written out? Who's responsible for doing that? Is it documented? Right? So compliance as a service, it's first going to help organizations understand where they are within the legal framework of the country they're operating in. How
Mhm.
far, 95% of the organizations we get involved with aren't there, right?
Mhm.
They're not there. They're doing their best, but for the most part, they're struggling to keep up with these changes. So compliance as a service, first document, typically the way we do it, you first document the framework and the constraints and the compliance and the regulation that are required. And then you basically transition that into a plan. Okay, how far away are we away from good?
Mhm.
Okay, what's the path to good? And then what are the tools you need to put in place? What are the kind of the different for the salespeople, or most of us probably on this call and listening are in the sales world? What revenue can be generated by either providing those resources as a service, providing that gap assessment as an ongoing service, or the tools in order to get them towards compliance, right? And a lot of organizations might already have a lot of these tools in place, and they just need some help building the capability with the tools they already have. It's a great opportunity out there to help customers with a very, very challenging situation.
So first thing, go to the client, say, "Hey, what do you need to do? What are you being required to do?" And then seeing how each one of those is being addressed or not being addressed, and then maybe that's where then you can, help them fix those gaps.
What are they mandated to care about? Right? Everyone wants to do the best they can. Everyone wants to help their customers. Everyone wants to do a good job. That's inherent in all of us. Anyone who's in the services industry wants to do a good job. But what does the law say? What is the person who's in charge from a legal standpoint? If you don't address these issues, you're liable for serious lawsuits, or you can hurt people, right? People can be doxxed, or they can have their identity stolen. All sorts of bad stuff can happen. So what are the controls that need to be in place to avoid that from happening?
When you approach a client or a potential customer, is it, for lack of a better term, is it better to go in with sexier topics that are really popular, like AI? Is it an easier foot in the door technique to be like, "Hey guys, let's talk about AI," because they're hearing it already so much, and then discuss compliance as a service?
It depends on what your goal is, and depends on what you want to do with that customer. If you're in
Yeah.
IT and you want friends to talk to, and you're
Mhm.
bored and you want to spend your day talking to people,
Mhm.
there are thousands of people in the IT industry who will take your time and chat with you all day about the next latest and greatest technology, the next iteration. There are people, Paul, there are people on LinkedIn right now that actually
Mhm.
put in their LinkedIn description that they are thought leaders. Thought leaders.
That's a title.
That is a title, right?
Well, you and I are both thought leaders as well. We should really add that to our resume.
Well, there are plenty of people in the IT industry, both in the operations and in the client side, and people jump back and forth all the time, that'll talk all day, right? We're good
Mhm.
examples of it. We started a podcast because we like to talk so much,
It's
right?
true. That's a good point.
So if you want to
We're kinda
talk,
throwing stones. We're kinda throwing stones right
I'm
now.
I'm in a glass house, brother. I know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like to go in and talk about the shiny penny, or the next buzzword, because
Mhm.
that's kind of where everyone is going. Like, everyone wants to talk about AI. Everyone wants to talk about the next cybersecurity, micro segmentation, network monitoring as a service, the next latest and greatest software out there. That's really, really cool. What I want to talk about is what does the organization not have, or what is not going well for them? And they're not going to tell you that out of the gate. But what are they struggling with? Because you can go compete with 20 people to sell them, the next latest and greatest tech or whatever you want to do. That's one angle. Our core and our beliefs is, we're an IT company, and how can we help? People might not need help with the next shining penny. They might not need help with artificial intelligence right now. They might just need help with patching. Like, can you just help me get my patching in place and get my patching automated in a way that I'm, compliant with the regulatory body that's governing my hospital or my small credit union, right? I'm behind on patching. Yeah, I know AI is really important, and Microsoft Copilot's going to change the world and all that kind of stuff. That's really cute and great, but I don't have these systems patched, and I'm going through an audit in 6 months, and I'm in trouble. That's what I want to ask about. I want to see, like, hey, where are you looking for operational help? The cool stuff will come through as well. And we do all that stuff. I mean, we sell the latest and greatest technology and services and platforms and all that kind of stuff. But usually you have to build a little credibility with a customer or partner in order to get there. And, I find the best way to build credibility is help people out when they're in deep trouble. That's why we do so well at incident response. Incident response, it's not the best way to meet somebody, probably one of the worst days of their professional life. But if you're able to help them, they trust you for a real long time. They trust you to help them. So yeah, that's the way I would do it.
It's kind of like being a lifeguard or a firefighter. People trust you because you're out there, saving them.
Yeah. I mean, you're there to help you, but it really takes a long time. It takes a little bit of time to build that credibility. And actually, cool segue. We've put out training. We're doing actually next week. Actually, when this airs this week, on Wednesday the 23rd, probably right around when this podcast is coming out, we're going to be doing a bootcamp on cybersecurity assessments and how those can help, our partners' clients and our partners kind of move into the cybersecurity space and help their customers with challenges that they have today. So those are assessments, evaluations, kind of peeling the onion back and seeing what they have in place from a policy standpoint or from a management standpoint is a great way to start the cybersecurity conversation, because a lot of your competitors are going to go in there and try to sell the next best MDR or XDR solution or network monitoring or firewall as a service, or there's thousands of products that people can sell. And I think a lot of clients just get inundated with it. They're just looking for help running their business.
We're both really on our transition game today. A couple things I wanted to mention: sustainability services. So a growing focus on sustainability is creating new consulting opportunities. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, it kind of depends, like what customers are talking about there in sustainability services. And I don't know, this one's hard for me to wrap my head around, because Google just came out with a notification that they're going to build nuclear power plants, 20 megawatt nuclear power plant, and then 20 or so 5 megawatt micro nuke sites to power their AI instances. And one of the things that, like, some of the same people who are like so pro green initiative, and that probably going to get, if anyone ever listens to this, probably going to get throttled for this comment as well. That's okay. Some of the greenwashing that goes on in this space is a little bit of funny money. And it's kind of like, hey, we're going to, audit, green initiatives and have all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we're going to consume megawatts and megawatts of power that's produced by coal power plants. And we're going to outsource all of our manufacturing to China, which is turning up 20 to 30 new coal power plants every month and has some of the worst emissions in the world. So it's like,
Adam, don't look over there. Don't look over there. Just look at what this hand is doing over here, Adam.
Yeah, I know. I know. So like the sustainability services, it's kind of funny money, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like this neat. But like it's kind of to me it's kind of silly. It's like people made up some rules and made up some things and then aren't paying attention to everything else going on. Like you're really worried about your emissions, but you just invested like $20 billion into artificial intelligence. I think it's great if Google gets the nuclear power plants off the ground and starts using that. That's clean energy.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. That's actually real. That's not like well we put grass on the roof. We're LEED certified and we use recycled concrete. So
That's a great point. So we've touched on a ton of stuff. Anything else, Adam? Ransomware? Do you want to talk about ransomware and how that's affecting the IT landscape?
well, ransomware continues to be hitting up all sorts of people. So we just saw some big changes out there in the automation process and the backups, and we're dealing with this across our customer stack and our organizations as well. But it continues to be a big challenge. I mean, I don't know, like we're in a notes here, like what's it, 50% of UK businesses suffered a cybersecurity breach last year. 80% of that was a ransomware incident. MSSPs continue to be targets for ransomware as well. So the bad actors know that MSPs and MSSPs are vulnerable organizations as well. So they're getting targeted. Something I wanted to talk about, Paul, a little bit was, along the lines of there was an article on CNBC, which was, I wouldn't say it's comical, but it was interesting that the feds were getting frustrated with the amount of people paying the ransom. You want to dive into that one a little bit?
It kind of boils down to the government's being like, "Hey guys, stop paying all these ransoms. It's making more ransomwares popping up." But at the same time, they're like, "But we get it. Don't pay the ransoms, but we get it if you do. But if you don't, and the data's leaked, well, you're probably going to get sued." So it's an article that says a lot of words, but I don't really feel like it gives a lot of like direction other than be vigilant. And here are some things like in protection you can use. It felt like it was talking probably the first time ever, Adam, but it feels like the government was talking out both sides of its mouth.
What? No.
I've
Think so?
never seen it happen first documented time.
Yeah, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. Great.
Hmm.
Fantastic. No, not, but yeah, I saw the title and I kind of sent you because I was like, what is this? So the government is getting fed up with ransomware payments fueling endless cycles of cyber attacks. I don't know, maybe prosecute or violently persecute foreign adversaries who make that possible. I don't know. I mean,
Hmm.
how about there's a lot of funding that goes into this and a lot of policies that goes into this, but kind of back to our earlier conversation, it's like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like you could decide not to pay, and like our friends in the hospital who then had a $6 million or a $5 million bill, transition to a $65 million bill, the Lehigh Valley Health Network in 2023,
Hmm.
right? So you got that example, right? They decide not to pay and then they get breached and then they're liable for a $65 million bill based on the the government's laws around the fees associated with that breach. Now I get it. You definitely you need to be responsible for securing the data, but at the same time, it does seem a little bit foggy there as far as who's responsible for what.
When you mentioned the prosecution, I don't remember reading any mention of prosecution in this article. So I just did a keyword search. Prosecution doesn't come up at all, or going after these people. There's no mention of it in the entire article.
It's a significant impact to business. It's a significant threat. I think bad guys aren't just going to go away. Like they're not just going to stop, right? So like we're just going to, hey, stop paying the ransoms and that's going to solve the problem. Or no, no, no. When someone breaks into your store and wants to steal your stuff, like the proper response is to remove that person as a threat, right?
Hmm.
Like if someone's threatening, I mean, I don't understand why sometimes people mix the physical and the digital world in a different way. If someone's threatening you, your family, your property, you remove them as a threat. I don't, and that I believe is the same type of a scenario that should happen when it comes to cybersecurity. And last time I checked, the government is the only one who has the threat of force, right? No private citizens have threat of force. So, hey guys, like grab your kit and go knock on some doors, I guess. I don't know.
That's a great point. Well, and at the same time, it seems like the government's making it more challenging. So, for instance, the passage of the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act, which I think is what we talked about earlier, that's coming into effect October 25th. And many non SEC regular organizations are going to face similar pressures. Under the ruling, companies in critical infrastructure sectors, which are often small and mid-sized entities, will be obligated to disclose any ransomware payments, further intensifying the challenge of handling these attacks. So the government's saying, hey, this is what you got to do and this is what you got to say. That's not necessarily going to help the problem.
No, it's actually it's the fun. This isn't funny. It's not funny, but it's going to make it worse. Like it's going to create a new problem. I don't know if you're in a certain power zone within California, Paul, but if you're not in your municipal power grid and you happen to be one of the lucky few in California who's in the PG&E grid, fun things happening for you guys in the California market right now is when the winds spike up, all of a sudden your power is going to go down.
Mm.
And that makes total sense, right? I mean, in a advanced civilization like we are today, what happened and why would that happen, right? The same concept that you have with why you guys lose power, when the wind spikes up is because a huge fire was caused by a certain power company in California. They were not covered by the state in any way and basically told, hey, you're on your own and pay all the debts. And so this power operator basically says, okay, well, if we're not going to get the backing of our quasi government relationship in order to cover our losses when people, lose their homes, we're just going to, when the wind spikes up, we're just going to shut down the power. So the same thing is going to happen with these types of mandates. When an organization is threatened or is held for ransom, and they are told not to pay, or they're told they're going to be sued into oblivion if they lose any of the data, they're going to start having to make decisions about their business and how they operate that to people outside of that process. Right? We're outside that process. We don't understand why would PG&E just shut down power when the wind spikes up. You're outside that process, that negotiation between PG&E and California. You don't know why that's happening. It seems like a illogical thing to happen. Businesses are going to start having to make these decisions that aren't driven by regular market forces. There's a weird quasi manipulation going on there. So it makes the problem worse. It creates a bureaucracy. It creates these like weird game theory moments where you're trying to evaluate why are people making the decisions they are. It's going to create confusion and more confusion. There's more vulnerabilities and more vulnerabilities, more breaches. So on that positive note, Paul, I mean, we are just a sunshine, just a rainbow of goodwill and positivity today, man. I'm super excited. We re-recorded this episode. It's great.
So let's spin it a little positive. Adam, you do mention you're doing that run this week. Are you raising money for anything? That is good.
Yes. Great. So raising money, so running 100 miles and raising money for Feed My Starving Children. It's a really cool Christian organization down here in Mesa, Arizona, that gets food directly to people all over the world who are at risk of literal starvation. And very powerful group. They have a 99.8 or 99.9 efficacy rate of getting the food actually to the people who are in a state of starvation, as opposed to potential bad actors that maybe use it as leverage. So really cool organization, raising money for that. So we'll throw the Give, Send, Go link in the bottom of the episode here. If you could donate at all, that's awesome. Going to be trying to raise some funds for that charity. Good group of people.
Cool. Yeah. So if this episode is made you sad, click on that link and you'll feel better because you're doing a great thing. Adam, anything coming up? Well, obviously we know what's coming up for you this week. Got a big run. Okay, here's a question for you. any words of encouragement that has helped you during your training? Because I feel like things that would help somebody run 100 miles could help any of us, like sell a product or reach out to a client.
Well, I think it's one of those things like, so when you're going to go for a big race like that, or you're going to do anything, it always starts small, and then it happens all at once. Like, so it's one of those things like, be cautious of what you're thinking about and what you're putting your mind towards from a goal standpoint,
Mm,
because it's really cool. You can see like when your mind starts focusing on something, you can start making these little incremental changes towards it, and then all of a sudden it just like happens all at once. So happens slowly, and then it happens all at once, and those little tiny changes kind of could put you on a cool path. So I remember when I first got into ultra running for the very, very first time, and just signed up for a race and started going for it. And then all of a sudden you can get into it. So it's a lot of fun. So start small, and then all of a sudden it can change really quickly. So I
cool.
think that's the same with business and with partnerships and all that kind of stuff. Just stay in the game, and then cool things happen when you get invited to play in more games.
Cool. I love that. That's great. And yeah, tune in next week. We're going to find out what happened in the run. So Adam, have a great event. Have an amazing week. Look forward to seeing you this weekend.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks so much for listening. The Incident Report is brought to you by Quest Technology Management. With over 40 years of experience, Quest is a leading technology integrator working seamlessly with your staff and systems to achieve your IT goals. Learn more about everything they do at questsys.com. And if you have questions or suggestions for the podcast, you can always email Adam and myself at theincidentreport@questsys.com. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.